Florida's housing market isn't just cooling down, it's imploding. We're talking about a crash so steep, entire neighborhoods are now selling for less than they did before the pandemic boom. And yet, most of the country has no idea how bad it's gotten. For the past 5 years, we've all witnessed one of the biggest financial bubbles in modern U.S. history inflate right in front of us. And nowhere is that bubble popping harder than Florida. You've probably seen the headlines. Even the New York Times is talking about Florida's housing crisis. But what you're about to hear goes far beyond what's being reported. Because as we step into the winter of 2025, Florida's housing and condo markets aren't just slowing down. They're unraveling in a way eerily similar to the 2008 Great Recession. And here's the chilling part. The true scale of this collapse still isn't showing up in the mainstream data. Let's start with Florida's condo market, ground zero of this crash. Take Punta Gorda as an example. Zillow data shows the average condo there has already dropped 26% since the summer 2022 peak. On paper, that looks like a massive correction. Declines that steep almost never happen in real estate. But reality on the ground? It's even darker. The listings, the price cuts, the stalled sales, they all paint a far bleaker picture than the official numbers suggest. In fact, if the trends we're seeing hold, parts of Florida may already be in a collapse deeper than 2008. Here's the perfect example. 4 months, we've tracked a cluster of condos that once sold in the high $800,000s during the summer 2022 frenzy. Since then, it's been nothing but chaos. For nearly a year, sellers slashed prices again and again, desperately trying to undercut each other. At one point, the price gaps between identical units were over $100,000. Yet no one was buying. Finally, on September 30th, we got the first real sign of where the market truly stands. A buyer closed on a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo with a boat ramp for just $500,000. That's a staggering 40% collapse from its $839,000 peak. And it gets worse. Compared to its pre-pandemic price of $550,000 in 2019, it's still down another 10%. That means even after erasing the entire pandemic boom, these condos are now worth less than they were years ago. The fallout isn't limited to just one sale either. 6 more units in that same cluster are listed even lower, and they're still sitting unsold. Argument: does it hold? Now, some of you might be thinking, well, Punta Gorda has been hit hard. Hurricane Ian in 2022, Milton in 2024, and Hurricane Hella just missed. And that's true. But here's the thing, hurricanes aren't new in Florida. According to data from Hurricane City, Punta Gorda has been in or near the path of a hurricane 65 times in the last 153 years. That's nearly half the time. Direct hits like Hurricane Charlie in 2004, near misses like Irma in 2017. And yet, through all those decades of storms, there was never a sustained housing collapse like we're seeing now. So no, this isn't just about weather. Something much bigger is at play. House beyond condos, the single-family freefall. And it's not just condos. The crash has now spread into Florida's single-family home market. Take one 3-bedroom, 3-bath home just down the street from that condo cluster. At its peak, it was valued at nearly $891,000. By mid-September, it listed for $600,000, already a massive discount. But buyers didn't bite. So the seller slashed the price again, knocking off another $110,000. The home finally sold for just $490,000. That's a 45% crash from its peak, and this isn't a condo in a luxury tower. This is a suburban single-family home. When values fall that far in this type of property, you can't just blame hurricanes or weather events. These are the same levels of collapse, if not worse, than what we saw in 2008. Fire the bigger picture. In fact, many homes in this region are now selling for less than they did in 2019. Think about that. Not only has the pandemic boom been erased, but so has years of appreciation before it. That's the kind of drop we haven't seen in modern U.S. real estate history. And here's where things get interesting, because as bad as it looks, crashes like this also bring opportunity. So where does that opportunity hide? And how are smart buyers already positioning themselves while others panic? What if I told you that what's happening in Florida right now isn't just a housing collapse? It could be the beginning of the next national real estate crisis. The numbers we've already uncovered are shocking, but the deeper you dig, the worse it gets. We exposed how Florida's condo market, once red hot, has seen price drops of 40% to 50%, wiping out years of gains and leaving sellers stunned. But here's the twist. Condos are only the tip of the iceberg. The real danger now lies in Florida's single-family housing market, the backbone of American real estate. And what's unfolding is eerily similar to 2008, only this time, the pressure isn't just coming from bad loans or speculation. It's coming from something far more systemic. Let me break it down. Florida homeowners are facing insurance bills so high, they're forcing people out of their homes. Premiums in some areas have tripled since 2020, and insurers keep pulling out of the state. Imagine paying $12,000 a year just for insurance, on top of your mortgage, HOA fees, and property taxes. When costs climb like that, people stop buying. And when buyers disappear, sellers have only one option: slash prices. That's exactly what we're seeing now. But here's where it gets even scarier. Condo associations, after the Surfside tragedy, are being forced to tighten their reserve requirements and launch expensive repairs. That means massive special assessments, tens of thousands of dollars per unit, squeezing owners who are already barely hanging on. Many simply can't afford it. Result: fire sales, foreclosures, and entire buildings turning into distressed zones. Now, you might think this is just a Florida problem. But history says otherwise. In 2007, cracks started in markets like Las Vegas, Phoenix, and Miami. Everyone thought it was contained. Within 2 years, the entire U.S. housing market collapsed. The same pattern could be repeating right now. Florida is flashing the warning signs. Listings piling up. Homes selling below pre-pandemic levels. Buyers vanishing from the market. If this spreads to other overheated markets like Texas, Arizona, or even parts of California, we could see the next national housing correction begin right here, in Florida. Another key piece: institutional investors. For years, Wall Street firms and private equity groups have been scooping up Florida homes to rent them out. But when prices fall 40% or more, these investors don't stick around. They exit. And when they exit, inventory explodes. That's why entire neighborhoods in places like Cape Coral and Punta Gorda now sit frozen, rows of for sale signs with nobody buying. This isn't just a cooling market. It's an investor exodus. And once that starts, the decline accelerates. So who's at risk here? Retirees who bought at the peak, hoping for a safe haven, are now watching their nest eggs vanish. First-time buyers who stretched to afford homes with high interest rates may already be underwater. Small landlords are squeezed between falling rents and rising insurance costs. And unlike 2008, this time many buyers paid cash. That means they can afford to wait, but sellers relying on financing, or those drowning in assessments, will break first. The truth is, what's happening in Florida right now is bigger than a market correction. It's a reset. A reset that could ripple across the entire U.S. Because when condos collapse, when single-family homes collapse, when investors pull out, and when costs spiral out of control, you don't just get a local downturn. You get a chain reaction. So, as we continue to track this story, one thing is clear. Florida isn't just a state in crisis. It may be the canary in the coal mine for the national housing market. The question is, will the rest of the country pay attention before it's too late? Stay tuned, because in my next update, we'll uncover just how far this collapse could spread, and whether 2025 might go down in history as the year America's housing bubble finally burst.